right, we are, excuse me, we are back for another week of EOG review. Last week we looked at types of sentences and sentence structure, whether it was fragment or complete or run-on. We looked at exclamatory, declarative, imperative, interrogative. We looked at dependent and independent clauses, and we looked at how to use context clues to figure out those pesky words that we don't know. This week, we're going to be focusing on analogies, finding the relationships in analogies, completing analogies, creating our own analogies, and also continuing to use context clues in your reading comprehension. So let's look at today. Today, we're going to work with analogies. So analogies test your ability to recognize the relationship between the words in a word pair. So given two words, how do they relate to each other? We can also use analogies to recognize when two word pairs have equal relationships, which we're going to get to this week, but not today. Today, we're only going to focus on recognizing the relationship between the words. So before we do that, we've already done analogies. This is all a review, but let's remember what analogies look and sound like. Analogies are usually written like this, with the colon, 1 between the first set, 1 between the second set, and 2 between the two sets. So this would be what your analogy looks like. And this is how we would say that. Up is 2 down, as over is 2 under. So one colon is, we're going to say, is 2, and 2 sets are going to be as. Up is 2 down, as over is 2 under. And all this says is the relationship between the words up and down is the same as the relationship between over and under. Let's look at what those relationships could be. There are many different types of relationships that can happen between words in an analogy, but there are some that are super common, and we're going to be looking at those this week. Today, we're going to look at synonyms and antonyms. We're going to look at words that are part of something and then the whole something, or the other way around. It's going to show us the whole, a group of something, and then just what makes up that group. We're also going to look at words that show what something is used for, or a tool that a worker uses. And we're also going to look at the relationship of types of things or a category of things. We're going to look at examples of each of those, so don't be confused just yet. Synonyms. We know that synonyms are words that mean the same thing or very similar. Okay, so my first set of words here is infant is to baby. Well, another name for an infant is a baby. That's a synonym. So I have to complete this analogy by making this relationship the same as the following two words, the relationship between those two words. So if infant is another word for baby, then grown up is another word for adult. Infant is to baby. Infant is a synonym of baby, and grown up is a synonym of adult. Okay, well, if we have synonyms, then we can also have antonyms. So now we're back to words that mean the opposite. So if big is the opposite of small, so big is too small, big is the opposite of small, just like full is the opposite of, could be a couple of things here. This is about size, right? So if I'm thinking about myself, if I'm full, the opposite of being full is hungry, right? If I'm thinking about my gas tank, the opposite of being full is being empty, right? So I like analogies because there's not always one correct answer, which is why when we do multiple choice questions, we need to make sure we look at all the answers and see what makes the most sense. So big is the opposite of small, just like full is the opposite of empty. So here, this full is being taken on like a gas tank. I mean, your belly could also be empty, right? Okay. Another kind of relationship is the part to whole relationship. So in this case, a wheel is part of a car, just like a branch is part of a Tree. Now, if these words were reversed here, if I said a car, a whole car needs a wheel, just like a whole tree needs a branch. They have to be in the same order. I can do part to whole and part to whole, or I can do whole to part, then whole to part, but they have to be in the same order, okay? Another relationship is the function or use of something, or the object and what it's used for. So those can also be flipped. Just remember, they have to be the same. You have to read them in the same direction for both parts of your analogy. So if it's the use of something, we use a truck to transport, just like we use an oven to bake, right? And again, I could say, all right, in order to bake, I need to use an oven. In order to transport, I need to use well, that could be lots of things, a truck, a car, a plane, a train, right? So again, not all analogies there's not just one right answer. As long as it fulfills the relationship, then it's good. Okay? Then we have a category or a type of something. So an apple is a type of fruit, just like a carrot is a type of vegetable. Good. I don't have much more to say about that. Pretty simple, right? Well, let's see. See if you can identify the relationships here. Class is to student. Think about that. Hot is to scalding. Right is to wrong. Gills is to breathing. Queen is to royal family. Soccer is to sport. Now, this is what they could be, okay? So we have synonyms, antonyms. One of these is part to whole. One of these is whole to part. One of them is a category or a type, and one is a function and a use. So let's see what we can do about this. Okay. Class is to student. Well, your whole class is made up of a bunch of students, right? So instead of being part to whole, this one's going to be whole to part. So it's D. Hot and scalding. If the water is hot, it's the same as being scalding. So what's the word over here that means the same as? It's a synonym, A. Right is to wrong. Well, we know that these are opposites, so that would be B, antonyms. Gills and breathing. Well, we don't have gills, we use lungs for breathing, but a fish uses gills for breathing. So the function of, or we use gills for breathing, which makes it function use. Now, the queen is a member of the royal family. The queen is a part of the whole royal family, so part to whole, which means that soccer must be a category or a type of sport. Think you got that? If you can, well, the fortunate part is today it'll be multiple choice, so you'll be able to see which of these things it's going to be. I will say on your booklet and on your assignment today, your choices, there are only 4, so I put synonyms and antonyms. So if it means the same or it means the opposite, it's going to be synonym, antonym. And part to whole, whole to part is going to be one answer. So it doesn't matter which direction it goes in, that's going to be your answer choice. Okay? All right. So your job now is to go do the booklet because the questions on the booklet are exactly the same as the questions in the assignment that's graded. You can play the booklet as many times as you want. You can start the assignment and get stuck and go play the booklet. This is not cheating. This is called using your resources. It's called practicing a skill. Practice. Use your resources. Make a 100. Okay. If you need help, I'm right here.